So now I think we may know this, but I think I see people in the room like Laura actively just taking a bunch of notes. Which is fine. That's a good thing. That's good. And I do it too because I'm getting old and I can't remember anything. But do humans learn best by listening and taking notes? Fact or myth? You know it's a myth, right? That's not how we learn. We learn by doing. We learn by building. We learn by creating. We learn by actively getting our brain working and creating knowledge. A lot of us do process information by writing it down, but not everybody does that. And that's you can think about the diverse kind of learners we've been talking about. Very few people, regardless of their age, learn well by passively listening and then taking notes. It can be great, and there's a lot of different strategies for how to improve note taking. We'll talk a little bit about that. But I also think that's one of the, unfortunately, what I see, it's one of the real deficits students come to college with these days. I don't think they're learning good note taking in K-12. And so if that's a really important expectation for what they need to do to be successful in your course, some of that has to be kind of taught or scaffolded for them. I use this image of a monitor with a bunch of stickies on it because traditional note-taking can still work for a lot of students. But there's so many different ways that people take notes now, and I'd like to think about the variety of ways that people do that. Actually, before I get there, I'll come back here. I've had faculty who, one of the most common accommodations from the Disability Service Office is a note taker or extended test time, and we'll talk a little bit about extended test time next time. But a note taker is one of the most common accommodation because it can be really hard for students to process material with certain disabilities and then write down the notes. But what I've worked with faculty to think about reaching all learners, some of them just have decided to sign note takers for the entire class and making sure that the notes are available for everybody in the class up on Blackboard or Moodle or Canvas, and making sure that everybody has access to not just one person's notes, but maybe two people's notes. So a large lecturer in biology up in New Hampshire that I was working with, he had a huge class. So he assigned 3 note takers each week. The students had to take notes and they would send them to him and he would look at them and then post them online. And some of them drew pictures. Some of them took outline, Roman numeral 1, Roman numeral 2, A, B, C, very careful notes. Other people took other kinds of notes, and all of them were okay. And that was what was kind of interesting about the whole process, is he was able to see 2 things. He was able to see what the students were getting out of the lecture and getting some formative assessment about what's going on here. And second, really and truly, the students were all getting access to notes, and some of them who were stressed out taking notes the entire time were now able to actually concentrate and listen during the lecture. Some people say, oh, well, if all the notes are done and available online, nobody's going to come to my class. Well, that's, again, you've got to make what's going on in your class a valuable and important experience in addition to that. But then also, if knowing that your turn to be a note taker is coming up, you may be more likely to pay attention because that's an important part of your grade. So there's a lot of ideas about note taking that I like to think about because I still see that as a traditional way people have expectations in college classes. I don't want to put Jennifer on the spot, but do you know what the most common error in developmental math is?
Signs, your positives and negatives, and their multiplication skills and stuff like basic concepts.
Yeah, the basic math functional skills, absolutely. But what happens when students are required to take notes in class? They copy down the wrong things all the time in developmental classes, especially in math. So then they go home and what are they studying? The wrong formulas. So what a lot of faculty I know do is really try to make sure that they give the notes to students. They provide the clear answers in the notes. Students still need to work out the problems on their own and figure that out. But if the notes are important in your class, making sure that you're not leaving that responsibility to somebody who's likely copying from here to here, going to make a computational error. Does that make sense?
Yeah, like what I sent you a PDF file. Those are the notes that the students have to print out, which is just blank with the definitions and like fill it with, and I also send her, I have accessible to all my students. It's a link to OneNote. They don't have to have OneNote online where it pulls up what we covered in class that day. So in case they miss a negative sign or they miss a contact because they were out in left field or something, they can pull it up. Or I don't hear the excuses. I was not here in class. I'm not here in class. What did I miss? Well, look up that OneNote and automatically links there every time you're connected to the internet and run OneNote. So if you see it, I sent you,
Yeah, no, I have I saw it and I looked at it quickly, so I apologize. But I have two questions, and you may have said it and I may have not heard it, so Laura might have to just repeat for me. Do they fill that out during class, or you give it to them out after class?
we fill it up, we fill it together in class.
So then they could double check on it to make sure they wrote down the right stuff.
Correct.
Okay.
That must be Hershey's product.
Because that's what I call I'm forgetting the word right now.
Skeleton?
No, something kind of notes, and I'm just forgetting the word. It's guided note taking. That's what they call that, is guided note taking, which means she wrote most of the content, and the students have to kind of listen for the right word and fill in what they need to know as they go along. Is that kind of how you use it that way?
That way, and like today, I forgot to put one class notes up, and they bit my head up because I didn't put them up. I'm like, whoa, guys, I'm doing y'all a favor here. Hold on a second. I was like, hey, you lucky that I'm a teacher like me. I'm like, I don't want them to see me. I'll make sure the notes are up.
You know, Molly, your thing about the math that I didn't know, and with Jennifer's addition, it made me think of an application we can do in Soft Chalk, which would be interactive notes, which would be that we have the blanks and they can put it in and it'll actually correct for them as they do it if they didn't get it correct.
That would be really cool. I've never seen that done. I would love to see that, Jean.
Well,
That would be really cool.
I also tell my students if they have iPads or Surface Pro or something, they can bring it to class and they can download the notes onto it. And they've been writing on one of my students, few of my students are using with a Notability as an app, and they love it because they can just write and they can record too in case they miss something also.
It's cool.
Notability. That's only for Apple on the iPad.
Yeah, I actually have a slide. I don't know if the slide's here, but I love Notability, and I do want to talk about some of the really great apps that you can use for note taking, because they let you audio record and take notes on things like that, which are amazing. Having iPads, I know, are luxury for most, but the way that they can really transform note taking for a class is really nice. And it's nice that you allow them to do that. A lot of faculty are afraid to let students bring any technology into class. So the fact that you do that is really good, because it's so powerful for students to, access the material in a way they're comfortable with, in the way they're going to use it.
Was it Evernote's another one that you could also record?
Yeah.
And
I
also,
love Evernote. Yeah. We're on BlackBerry.
No longer the crackberry. Apple's now the new crackberry.
can't live without.
Oh, Molly, are you stuck?
Sounds like you're just stuck.
Yeah, she's.
Molly, it sounds like looks like you're frozen. Hold on.
Hosts have left the meeting, your role automatically changed, so she's gonna have to come back in.
Yeah, I think she realized she was stuck. I love Evernote.
It's an app, and also the web-based where you can upload notes and stuff where people can access it. And also you can record, like if you have a smartphone, you can record and write on it too, and when you can access it. I know the scribe, the live scribe kids have one, love it.
I'm gonna get one. You want? Oh, I love one.
That you can write on a special paper and it automatically links the audio and the notes straight to Evernote. So in case you lose your notebook, you can pull it up and on your cool. Oh, I love the live scribe thing. That's should get that.
So Evernote, you can talk into it and it transcribes it.
Yeah, but they just, yeah. Because you
Like
have to pay
paper
people
people.
for that now, for the transcribe.
Molly, can you hear us?
Yeah. the
Ken,
transcribe.
that was a really strange thing. I think I had a little power blip here. I apologize.
Do you have control as host still? Or do we need to switch? Are you still as host? Do we need to switch you, or are you okay?
Still host, I think we're good. Yep, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I apologize for that. Where we left off, let me just make sure we're still recording here. We are. Where we left off, which is wonderful, is Jennifer was sharing lots of ideas about note taking and having students do lots of different kinds of note taking. And that's exactly what I wanted to talk about. And I think you have some great tools to share along with that. I think I mentioned that math, one of the biggest problems is with developmental math is that people don't copy the right things down. That's also true in other courses as well. You know, it's not just math, but math, it's a little more, I don't want to use the word fatal, but it's a little more problematic, because if you write down the wrong way of solving a problem and then you're studying it later, you're definitely studying the wrong material. If you misspell a word in some classes, that's not going to hurt you forever, right? So it's really kind of thinking about the high stakes of it all.